Hmm. Let's talk about stress. It's Natalie with the Think Yourself Academy. Welcome to the stress series. In part number 1 today, we're going to talk about who invented stress and what is going on in the brain when stress happens. So stress has only been defined since 1936. So one of the researchers, he was a physicist. His name is Hans Selye. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Hans Selye described that it was the force that is produced on a physical body. For example, if you bend a piece of metal until it snaps, it occurs because of the force or the stress that is exerted on it. So the term stress has been coined by Hans Selye in 1936, and it defines the non-specific response of the body to any demand for change. So let's remember that it came from physics. When you apply pressure because of a change, that's when stress happens, and it causes this pieces of metal to snap. Well, that's kind of what happens for us. Change is present all the time, anywhere, and it creates that pressure on us until we snap. So let's see what are the different ways that we feel that this stress happens, and if it is keeping us, if it's a negative thing, or if stress could potentially be a positive thing. And down the road in the 3-part series of stress, we will discover that potentially stress could be a good thing, that it could actually bring us the energy that you need in order to break free. But I will get back to this. For now, let's talk about pressure. Let's talk about change. Because nowadays we are under a lot of pressure. So either you're facing big changes in your life or at work, you're worried about something, and there's always either you're worried about your children, either you're worried about your spouse, your friends, your work, your business that you're trying to run. There's always something to worry about. There's not having control over a situation or over an outcome. So stress happens when we feel that we don't have control, when we have too many responsibilities and we find that we are overwhelmed. So that causes stress as well. There's also a different kind of stress, which is the reverse. If you don't have enough work or enough activities or enough change in your life, that can also cause stress, interestingly enough. And of course, there's a lot of traumatic experience, discrimination, hate, abuse, all powerful emotion are also part of stress causing. And what happens in the brain, so in your circuits in your head, stress causes an imbalance of your neural circuits. So that while you're busy stressing, it makes you having a hard time to make a decision. So that's why we feel stuck and we are unable to make decisions. And it also affects anxiety. It causes anxiety as you repeat the stress. It impacts your mood. And this imbalance in our brain causes to eventually attack your body. It attacks your immune system and it attacks your metabolism. So we also get sick from stress. So we really have to look at it as if it was an army of little soldiers, let's say, that are in our body. And as let's say you experience something dangerous or something that's really emotionally taxing, then the amygdala, the little part of your brain that is your survival instincts that make sure that you're safe all the time, that portion of your brain takes over, and instead of storing memories and performing higher tasks like thinking, being able to make decisions, now all these soldiers are busy fighting the stress, so they cannot be helping you in the other tasks that you would have liked to do. So it really affects your capacity of thinking and your metabolism. So then you have less energy to get the job done for all these other tasks. So that's how stress keeps us stuck. Now, this also is connected to the level of serotonin. And serotonin, you've heard me talk a lot about these different feel-good chemicals, but stress really depletes your serotonin levels. So especially chronic stress, especially trauma. So if you are in serotonin deficiency, that could potentially cause depression in the long run. So there are a few little things that I want to bring also into today's part one of stress is we know where it's from, we know what it does to our body, we can't think, we get sick, we go into depression, and then that also brings into long leave of absence, not being able to work, not being able to make a living for yourself. So there are many tricks that we're going to see in part 2 and in part 3. So that is coming up. But just a few little things that I thought I would add to this section 1 is all the little things that you already know that you can do for stress, like squeezing something, like those little balls. Where does that work? Like crying, when people cry, or yelling. So why do we yell? Why do we cry? And why is squeezing something gonna help our stress? It's all related to what I just said about serotonin, because when you cry, it releases serotonin. When you yell, it releases serotonin. When you squeeze something, it releases serotonin. So for that reason, usually when you are stressed, it depletes your capacity to produce the serotonin level in your bloodstream. But if you squeeze something, if you cry, or if you are yelling, very often it will help. So that's why we do these things. It's because we are craving the serotonin level. So part number 2, next week, we will see 5 strategies in order to reduce stress. And then in part number 3, we will see that following week, we will see 22 powerful questions to reduce stress on the spot. So stay tuned for part 2 and part 3 of the stress series.